Okay, here we go. Antonio. Ballas.
Here.
Caracelis.
Here.
Diaz. Bathroom. Duncan.
Here.
So let's hop into it. We kind of jumped into this yesterday a little bit. It was like super, like I had told you guys, you know, what unit, but we really didn't get a chance to get it because there were so many different things going on. So I'm gonna kind of go over this. If I cover something that we already covered, I would like to streamline it, so we're gonna go over it right from the beginning. My name is Joseph Garcia, and I'm the Law Enforcement Instructor here at Decatur High School. Yeah, so the Law Enforcement program here at Decatur High School is a program that allows students to come in and see firsthand what it is that law enforcement does on a day-to-day basis. So we're able to actually talk about real-life events. We go through body-worn camera footage. It really opens up the kids' information as far as like what it is that they know occurs with law enforcement, because a lot of times if you don't go through the police academy, you really do not know what takes place behind the scenes with law enforcement. You only get like what's on the surface.
My name is Lyle Lackey, high school principal. I think from the program of the law enforcement side, it was just like any elective program of getting kids to buy into it and for them to think, oh my gosh, I'm going into a law enforcement class. You put me in here because I'm in trouble. And so I think at the beginning, I think it was something like that. If kids thought that they were being put in the class or that we were trying to force it down their throats of, hey, we want you to understand what the police does because you're in trouble with the police a lot. And then they realized, hey, that's not what this is about at all. This is a pathway that I could follow.
She told me that the reason he joined was just so that it gave him something to do, because he was really young when he joined. Because I knew from 7th grade that that's what I wanted to do, was go into law enforcement. I really wanted to be in the class because that's the job that I'm pursuing. And so being in this, knowing more about it early on, I think was really gonna help me.
I think this is a really valuable class for people who are fully intending to go into law enforcement and stuff, because I do intend to go into law enforcement. I intend to double major in criminal justice and psychology because I hope to work for the FBI, and I have to work my way up through law enforcement to get there. And I think this kind of gives me a head start, and it looks good on like law enforcement resumes and stuff, and they see like I've been devoted to this for a long period of time.
I guess unless you're one of those kids that really want to be in law enforcement, like me going in there, I don't really want to be in law enforcement as of now, but maybe when I'm in when I'm my senior year, I might be like, you know, baseball isn't working out, you know, I might want to go be law enforcement before I become a lawyer or real estate agent. So I think it gives you an earlier perspective of how it can be instead of, you know, you just immediately like just getting thrown into that, like the police academy. Like, it tells us what we do in the police academy, so I think it would just be easier for you to ease into that. I think it's easing into if you want to become a cop.
So the curriculum for the law enforcement program actually has 3 levels currently right now through the state of Texas. And the first level is the entry level. That's the actual introduction to law enforcement, so principles of law. So we start off in that course just introducing the students to what it is that law enforcement does, like what is their role in the community, what calls we respond to, how we respond to them. And then from there, if the students want to continue taking the class, the following year they can take the Law Enforcement 1 class, the LE1 class, and then we ramp it up a little bit. We start moving into interviewing and interrogation. We start discussing about in the Miranda rights, so when we are arresting people, when do we read Miranda rights to those individuals? How does the Constitution and the Bill of Rights play into what it is that we do as law enforcement on the streets? Integrity, honor, courage, unbiased, okay? So super important, because if we are, right, and we don't gain that cooperation from the public, if you're not cooperating with me, what happens? As a law enforcement officer, you don't cooperate with my lawful orders, what happens to you? You get arrested, which means what? I have to do what with you now? I gotta handcuff you, I gotta put hands onto you, I gotta touch you. And if you fight, then what happens? We fight back. More charges. We want to avoid that. And then if they come back the following year and take the Level 2 Law Enforcement 2 program, that's when we really ramp it up. We start getting the students involved. We do scenario-based training. They come in the room, they implement what it is that they learned, and they have to really put together the fundamentals of what it is that they learned throughout that unit. It's so important to what we do from a law enforcement perspective. PIL's 9 principles of policing were established because that's our core values. Those are our core values as police officers. So we're going to run through this really quick. Let's talk about principle number 1.
Right now we are learning about family violence and like domestic violence and stuff. We learn about like witnesses and victims and just stuff like that, and whenever he explains it, he goes more into depth than just the slides and what they say. He really explains and helps everybody understand like the full perspective of the picture.
So the class became a class from my sophomore year, so I've been in it now for 3 years. And we had Captain Royce Gasson, who was kind of the volunteer of the class. He taught us everything, and he made it clear straight away that we're gonna hit home with some of the stuff we talk about. Like there's not gonna be no like sweet coding. Like we're gonna talk about real issues, and some stuff might make you uncomfortable, but he told us, he was like, in the end, it's gonna be for the best. And he made sure, he was like, we're gonna get into like the hardest stuff. And I think a lot of us, it helped us like mature in a way, realizing like we watched a lot of like videos of stuff, and I think, and obviously I'm in the advanced class now, and we do a lot more like hands-on stuff. We do a lot of presentations. We had to do a handcuffing scenario, just like stuff like that. You do a lot of hands-on in the advanced class. You have real talks, you watch some hard videos sometimes, but it's all for the best, and it definitely helps you like realize and like mature and everything. So I think it's been really helpful.
The one downside I think to this class is there's a lot more hard conversations than like floral design or like geography. We actually talk about like current, like we watch a lot of his body cam footage, which is within school like appropriate, but like stuff is blurred and stuff. We get to see like what he actually does, and maybe that's hard for some people. And like we talked about George Floyd a little bit, not too into detail.
It's a very non-traditional learning environment and teaching environment. As I said a minute ago, I'm not a teacher by any means. I'm a police officer for the city, so I just kind of showed up and was like, what do I do with my hands kind of thing, right? So we did a lot of group discussions, which is interesting. It's good and bad because there's no right or wrong answer on what's your opinion on something. My whole thing was, have your opinion and why it was. Don't say because I saw it on Facebook or something like that. I want to know why you think a certain way, and let's talk about it.
For me, one of the biggest hurdles I would say coming into the Decatur High School law enforcement program was that they did have an excellent mentor before me, and it was Captain Royce. He built this program, he established that foundation. I think he would still be here had it not been for the program doing so well.
The reason I'm no longer doing it, honestly, is it got so big. So when this program was created, the goal always was the police department was going to help out and start the process, and then we would go as long as we could until it got to a point that the school stepped in with a traditional teacher. It's great having someone come in that's not from Decatur, honestly, because it brings a different aspect and a different viewpoint on what policing is in other places.
And so one of the biggest hurdles that I found was, one, having those shoes to fill and living up to the expectations that he actually set as a standard for the program. But then I think probably the second biggest hurdle for the program was actually connecting with the students. The students that were already here that got an opportunity to build that relationship with him, and the relationship he built with them and they built with him, it was almost unbreakable. I had students that were dropping out of the classes that were telling me they didn't want to even come in and meet me. They didn't care to meet me because I was not the captain.
You pull the door close? I can always talk. I can talk about anything.
Oh, I know. That's why we're gonna have you.
Who else? Do you have anybody else in mind to do it?
Is that everything you wanted?
1 to 2 per class.
I just love the partnership that it's created with our police department. Well, Joe came in and he had the background as a former police officer and the great thing about it is he had done different parts of it. Like I said, he had done a K-9 unit. He had done been a part of a threat assessment team. He had done, I think, a SWAT team. He had all kinds of background. And so to watch him, the number one thing he did is he came in and the first people he reached out to was the police. And the people, the chief of police and then the lieutenant who had taught these classes, he reached out to them and said, okay, where did you start? How did you get the beginning classes? Where are you at? Where do I need to go with it? And then they came together and kind of decided upon a curriculum. And then we, as administrators, just provided them I just said, what resources do you need? I'll get them for you. Where do you want to go with this? And he kind of put a plan together, and then he would come to me and say, hey, we need this resource. I would like to purchase this. Let's do it. And so that's kind of where we did. Joe did a great job of building those relationships, getting support, and then going into the classroom and getting the kids to buy into it.
My hopes for the program is to continue the growth. I am very impressed with the Decatur School District, the amount of support that we get from the community for the district, the Decatur High School. I mean, the partnership that they've built from this high school to the police department is bar none. I have not seen one that has been like the relationship here. And I think that that's great, because I think if we're all on the same page and we're all trying to achieve the same goal, it makes the success that much easier to get to. And so for me, knowing that this was the culture that I wanted to be a part of, because those are my beliefs as well, is building and bridging that gap between law enforcement and the community. I would like to continue the growth and leaving the program better than what it was when I found it.
I think for Joe, like I said, he was open and honest in the interview, and he was also willing to share that stuff, but he also was willing to talk about the impact that it had made on him, and then how he wanted to take that and make an impact in kids' lives. And so I think when you get that, you're not caught up in, okay, well, can he teach the subject? You're caught up in, as an administrator, can he go in and be successful in the classroom and building relationships with the kids? And he's done that.
I got into this, and what really motivated me is I got into the Law Enforcement Explorer program, which is like a cadet program, when I was 14 years old in high school. And I think for me, what really set me apart from a lot of the individuals that were in high school when it came to the law enforcement and career path was I actually had a mentor that was there for me and assisted me when I didn't really know what direction to go in. I was one of those troubled teens, and I was getting in a lot of fights. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I went into a career of law enforcement. I got hired as a community service officer in December of 2000, and that started it for me. I fell in love with law enforcement. I had a passion for helping people, and from there I ended up putting myself through the academy, and I furthered my education. And while doing my education, I discovered that my leadership style was pinpointed to being a coaching leader. And so for me, I really enjoy seeing the success of others. I love seeing others grow. And during my career, I had the opportunity to do that. So I just recently decided to retire from law enforcement in December of 2021. And I knew that I wanted to go into teaching. I didn't know what that looked like at that time, because for me, I did not have a teaching credential. However, I had been around it long enough. I had assisted with seeing others grow and being able to recognize their strengths and weaknesses and help them succeed. And so I knew that if I can get into a position of influence, like a position like this one here, where I'm teaching 170 students, then I can actually be there for them, and I can help guide them like I had people help guide me. And so that's really what motivated me to be in this line of work. It's like paying it forward, from what I actually got as well.
For Joe, yeah, I've gotten to have conversations with him a little bit about his background and things he's done, and I think it's important that in knowing that he's going to be able to build relationships with those kids, and he's going to be able to relate to a lot of different kids who are going through kind of some of the same things he went through as a kid.
Mr. Garcia is not like all goody-goody. He didn't come from like a good background and all that. Like, he understands what everybody has gone through because he has been through it. Not just because he's seen it with his eyes, but because he has been there and been in that place.
Just going into this, it's going to be your favorite classroom. It's going to be your favorite class. Like, Mr. Garcia is awesome. I hope he never leaves. It's just going to change your eyes, like open your eyes up to the world that we live in, and just see that there are two different sides.
Yeah, I would say I'm one of his favorites. So like we're, for instance, like probably 3 months ago, we're just walking in the hallway and he had to take a call and his canine dog was here, and he just kind of casually handed me the leash, and I had to walk this huge dog down the hallway with people walking by, and I had to somehow get him to not bark at him.
It's almost weird to think that Garcia was an actual cop, because I see him now and it's just like he's doesn't seem like he was a cop because of how sweet and nice he is, but seeing how he was with other people and whenever he was actually a cop, I think he is a great demonstration of how every cop should be.
He's like my hero. He's the person I look up to, because hearing about what he came from to where he is now, and then now having all of this happen,
But if I can influence 178 of you, 178 human beings to start understanding the why behind this, I know not all of you are going to be cops. I understand that. I know some of you don't want to go into law enforcement. Some of you are probably even like me growing up, and you might have had a bad experience with a law enforcement officer or multiple, and you just don't like law enforcement. That's okay. My hope is that what you're going to get out of this is that you understand. Aubrey, you and I were talking at the beginning of class, right? It's even just being in here and just understanding. It's interesting to understand how things operate and work in the law world, right?
for me, it's valuable because obviously my dad teaches it. I know when he retired out from being a police officer, it was really hard for him, like really hard, because he missed interacting with the community and being able to help people and like talk to them, but he's always loved teaching. And so seeing him get to teach what he loves while getting to interact with students and people, and then now like getting to do all of this, like he loves it. And like I've seen the stress goes down so much from him transitioning from a police officer to here. Like he's able to actually breathe and like do things, which when he was a police officer, he would be sleeping, come home, sleep, and then be really stressed out. And like you can see the difference. And so seeing him talk about this after school just makes me really happy, because I know he enjoys it and he's excited about it, because I think he has a really cool story, and so it makes me excited that he's able to share it as well. And I know he was really excited about this, getting to recognize people doing things that he used to work with the EMTs, or he used to be the one there taking care of people or answering, like going to calls, and now getting to give back to those people that are his family, you can say. Like, it's really cool seeing.
The first responder I chose was Mr. Garcia, who is a former police officer. And there's our pictures we took. I chose him because he's my law teacher, and I wanted to choose someone I already knew. He chose to be an officer because in his past, when he was younger, he lived in a hard environment and saw what drugs and alcohol did to his family, so he wanted to become part of the rehabilitation process.
Well, at the beginning of the year, Mr. Garcia came to me and he said, hey, I just want to show you something that we do, you know, we've done before, or something that a lot of places do, and it's a challenge coin. And what it is that people will take these challenge coins and they'll go give them to a first responder or to someone in the police department and recognize them for what they are doing. And each department, each place kind of has their own little significance of a challenge coin. And Mr. Garcia showed me the one that he had with his patrol unit when he was in California with his dog. He was on, I think, animal patrol, and so he showed me kind of what that one looked like. And he said, hey, I'm thinking about with my group, my law enforcement classes, us doing a project where I think I can get somebody to get these challenge coins for us, and then we go around to different police officers and different first responders here in the community, and the kids reach out to them, and this is why they do it. He gave me the why behind it, which is awesome in the fact that, and I watched it happen yesterday. I saw a kid come up with the challenge coin, go up to one of our assistant principals who used to be in the military and has some police background a little bit, go up and ask him and say, hey, I want to recognize you with this challenge coin. Can you tell me a little bit about your story? And to hear him tell that kid that story, the interaction between them was awesome.
Yeah, so I think the challenge coin, where that came into play at is, I've always known ever since I've been in law enforcement that the challenge coin is pretty sacred to us in law enforcement. There's meaning behind it when it's handed out and given to somebody. And in this particular case, for me, part of bridging that gap with the community, like we had spoken about, was actually getting the challenge coin that Combat Vet has available out to the first responders and thanking those first responders for what they do for us. Currently, right now, the climate is a little different for us in law enforcement, and so in an effort to try to bridge that gap, when I saw the challenge coin, I thought that would be an excellent way for us to create a project and get these students back out into the community to let these individuals know that we do thank them. There's going to be bad apples in every crate, and we know that. That's something that we probably are not going to be able to change, but we can do everything we can to prevent it. But I think the challenge coin is going to really help play a role in bridging that gap and saying, hey, we really do appreciate you. We appreciate you those of you that are working on your holidays and your birthdays and your anniversaries, because I know firsthand for myself, almost 22 years later in this line of work, you do miss a lot of important events. But the passion that you have and the care that you have for people because you're a public servant is something that you just cannot take out of an individual. So it was very sacred to me to be able to bring this to the table as a project for us to do.
I chose Sergeant Daniel Santate, and I gave mine to him because during my sophomore year I went through a tough situation in my family, and he was kind of there to help me go through it, and he made my family feel safe and kind of comfortable around like other people. And he used to be an SRO here during freshman and sophomore year, and that's when I was still somewhat new, so he was like there to bring me into everything. He was more of into the community policing, so he's kind of really close with everybody. He's a hostage negotiator at times, so he can really get close with everybody if he needs to. And he said he joined the police force because he wanted to change his, he wanted to do better with his life because he used to be a custodian and a maintenance man. And then he's just kind of stayed with it for about 21 years. It's kind of interesting how far all this started and how all of it's gone just because a small little coin. And at the beginning of the year, we created this little wall outside of the class of all the pictures and all the fun times that we have and all the different names of police officers like Popo, 5-0, all that stuff. And people do ask about the class a lot of the times, so asking what it's for and why do we do it. And we have a lot of the 8th period, it's people that aren't even in the class. Like they have friends that are in the class, so they know Mr. Garcia and they've just got comfortable with them and they're comfortable to talk around and everything. It's kind of nice to know how everybody decided to start on why they chose this type of, what they chose, why they chose a police officer or a firefighter or military. So you get to learn their backgrounds and everything that you've been through and everything.
The challenge coin objective was to show the first responders in our community that the law enforcement division in Decatur High School appreciates them. Who did I decide to give it to? I decided to give it to Mr. Hess, a substitute here at Decatur High School, because many don't know that he was in the Army and he deserves some recognition.
Mr. Hess, I've known him for a couple years. He's substituted multiple classes, and he is just the funniest person to be around. He lights up the classroom, and when I found out that he was part of our first responders, I knew that he needed recognition because not many people know that about him. And he also went through things in life. He's not just a funny person everybody sees.
I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa, and I moved to Decatur almost 5 years ago. Okay, so I chose to give my coin to Mr. Mark de Montreal. He used to watch over the church I used to go to, and he taught me a lot about ethics and showed me that cops have a different perspective. How cops treat you here is completely different from how you get treated by cops in Africa, because they just think authority and having a badge is power, and here it's actually having respect. So I asked him why he joined, and he said that he joined because he genuinely cares about people and wants to help people when they struggle. He's been in the law for 28 years, and he liked the feeling of helping and saving people. So I chose him because he was really the first contact I had with an American officer, and it was cool to see how different he acted compared to what I'm used to, and he taught me most of ethics that I know.
I gave my coin to Officer Josh Wilson. He's an officer at Decatur Police Department. I gave it to him because I've known him for about 3 years now, and he's always been an officer I could talk to, and I've run into him many times.
He said the reason he got into law enforcement was because of human trafficking, and that kind of like surprised me because I feel like Decatur's not big on that. But he went into a story that I guess his sister was involved in a human trafficking incident, so he wanted to do that, and he said there's no better feeling when you get a child or even an adult out of that kind of situation. And he also loves doing traffic and writing tickets, and I wanted to give it to an officer because my dad was a cop and I want to be a cop as well when I grow up. And I think I just wanted to show my appreciation to all the officers, especially since they don't get a lot of love. It's more hate for them. So I just wanted to show my appreciation.
I actually give my coin to Garcia because personally I feel like he's made a big impact on me, not only for this law class, but just like me in general. Like, I just feel like a really strong connection with him, and he really makes me feel comfortable and at home, and it's like he's almost another parent figure in my life. He cares about me, not just about paperwork or grades or work. He cares individually about me, and it's not all about work to him. It's the connection with everyone.
So I believe that the impact with this particular program is bigger than what we probably realize it is. And the reason why I say that is right now, given the current climate of where we're at in our country with law enforcement, sometimes we don't realize how much of an impact one incident could have. And we're coming off of a time right now where law enforcement is really not looked at in a positive manner. And so the impact that I want to leave on them is knowing that, yes, even though that there might be some bad apples in the crate, there are law enforcement officers out there that are still doing what they do, that they love to do, because we enjoy being a public servant. We enjoy being there for you 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. If it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, we're still sitting in that patrol vehicle at our desk, waiting to make sure that you're safe, waiting for those calls to come in, to respond to ensure your safety. And I think leaving that with these students of how it's going to impact with them in the community is actually discussing with them, having those hard conversations that some days we don't get to have from a law enforcement perspective because we are called a call, or because we are busy, or because maybe we don't want to have that hard conversation, where this in itself gives me that opportunity. I'm in a position of influence where I can have those hard conversations in the classroom with these students, these young adults that are growing up, and they can ask their questions, the why. They want to understand the why. They want to know a why behind it. Most of us, we all do. I even did as a young individual growing up. But it allows me that opportunity to answer their questions and explain to them what we do and why we do it, so that they have a clear understanding when they enter society. Even if they don't become a police officer or enter into the law enforcement field, they understand why we do what we do as first responders.